Welcome to the Referrals Podcast, the show designed to help everyone from the solopreneur to the Fortune 500 company win the referral game. If you want to build a company with an army of ambassadors and raving fans who speak highly of you and refer you willingly, you are in the right place. Let's meet your hosts, Chris Angel and Michael Maher.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Referrals Podcast. I'm Chris Angel, your co-host, here with Michael Maher. Michael, here it is, episode 2. We did it. Congratulations.
Yay! We are being consistent. It's like we've done 1, now we did 2. You know, 3's a trend.
3's a trend.
Crazy. I know. So I'm excited about this. And I need to do a special shout out and a thank you to everybody who downloaded the top 20 list of the 20 top recommended podcasts from last time. So thanks for everybody for doing that. And if you didn't get it, it's at referralspodcast.com, along with today's gift, which you're gonna love. So
I love it. So today's topic is inspiration. Is how do you want to build that up today? I want to hear about inspiration. Like, what was the inspiration of 7L, et cetera? So
what's really cool about the word inspiration, is that it's different than motivation, right? Motivation, the first thing they talk about when there's a murder, right, is what's the motive, right? Yeah. What motivated them to murder, right? So with motivation, you can have bad motivation or you can have good motivation. That's why when people say, well, Michael, you're a motivational speaker, right? I will say, let's talk about that for a second, right? So it's like, I don't consider myself a quote unquote motivational speaker, though I do hope that when I speak, it calls them to action. Yeah. I see myself more as an inspirational speaker. And what's great, I love the difference between motivation and inspiration. I love words, and I love the meaning behind the word. And inspire, well, inspire, notice the word spire, right? Spire means life, right? And inspiration means to breathe life into. Mm-hmm. So it's like respiratory system, right? Our respiratory system is breathing, right? So inspire means to breathe life into. And that's what I believe that we should be doing as a podcast. And honestly, when I speak is people come to you and they're at a certain level of life, right? And I mean, like they're if you look at life as a light, right? Some of them come to us and the light's a little dim, or the light is maybe just a burning ember, right? And what I hope to do is I hope to put oxygen on that fire, refuel the fire, and get that fire of life that is inside of people to burn even brighter, right? I'm not asking them to callous their heart to make cold calls, to door knock, to spam people, right? Yeah. I'm not asking them to do that. What I'm asking people to do is build your business based on love, generosity, and appreciation, period. And it's strategic, it's practical, it's tactical. It's not like fluff, right? It's not bad stuff. It's not us holding hands singing Kumbaya, right? It's strategic, it's tactical. It's here's the things to do. Yeah. When you're in touch with what you love to do about what you do, right? What do you love to do about that? And then the generosity, it's like, okay, here's the way to utilize generosity in a way that is going to get reciprocity. And reciprocity, if you train and coach the people who want to act in reciprocity, is in the form of referrals, right? And they give you referrals, and that referrals is going to help your business become more profitable, because referrals and repeat business are the most profitable. Well, that profitability is your business having money, but there's something more powerful than your business having money. Yeah. And that is you as a human having freedom, choices, wealth, family, relationships, and all the other things that make life. And that's prosperity, right? Well, when you have prosperity, it's easier to be generous. It's easier to provide generosity, right? Proactive generosity. Well, but your generosity is higher and more powerful, right? And then that generosity is going to lead to more reciprocity, but the reciprocity is higher and more powerful, which is going to lead to more referrals. Well, those referrals are higher and more powerful. And then those referrals are going to make your business profitable. But you know what? Your profit is higher and more powerful, which leads to more prosperity. But that prosperity is even higher and more powerful, which of course leads to more generosity. But the entire cycle, what I just described as the generosity cycle, starts with generosity. It starts with you having to have faith that if you are generous to others, that it will come back. And what I'm saying is that it will, especially as you go through the 7L system. And it's one of those where you're going to find out that even if it doesn't come back tit for tat or immediately, it still feels really good to live this life of generosity and appreciation and love.
It reminds me when you were talking about it, it keeps growing, getting bigger. It reminds me of, you talked about an ember and breathing life. Like, growing up, we had a fireplace, real wood burning fireplace with a billows, right? Like billow it, right? And as you billow, the glow, the ember gets bigger, the fire gets bigger. And as you add stuff on, it keeps growing and growing. And so this inspiration and this breathing life into impacts the entire growth of not just business, but life, relationships, love, generosity, like you said. I love that.
Yeah, and it's exactly right. Breathe life into, right? You inspired. I mean, literally, if you use the proper definition of the old term inspire, you inspired the fire, right? By breathing life into it. And, that is another way to use the word inspire, though most of the time we talk about it, it's from the term of one person inspiring another. But inspire works for many different cases. So this really is about inspiration, right? Not necessarily motivation. It's let's breathe life into others.
So I want to know, so it's almost like an origin story, but I want to know what inspired, what breathed life into you to write your book, the 7L.
So I think the biggest thing that inspired me to write a book, right? And it's like a lot of people, you hang around with a great circle of people. Some of them are authors and some of them should be authors, right? I mean, that's kind of your circle of influence. And it's one of those where, so I didn't know that what I was doing was special, right? I just knew that I wasn't doing spamming, soliciting, or being a criminal by cold calling the wrong people and getting $10,000 fine. I wasn't going to do that. Right. So what I was doing is really focusing on referrals. Well, I was, and it blew up, right? I mean, I was busy, so I didn't even know I was doing anything special. And then a guy by the name of Howard Brinton with Star Power, he interviewed me for a Star Power Star of the Month interview, and he had about 100,000 people that subscribed to his interview series. Well, when the interview came out, my email blew up, my phone blew up, and everybody wanted to know, like, how the heck are you getting over 500 referrals a year? Wow. Right? And we're talking some really powerful business people who were doing quite well already themselves. In many cases, doing far more business than I was doing, but they weren't getting it from repeat and referral business. They were getting it through spending money on marketing and advertising, right? Yeah. And so for 3 years, I was like, I should write a book, right? Because it's like somebody would say, hey, tell me about the house ring parties. And I would just send them the house ring party system, right? They'd send me some money, whatever. But I would say, but a part of me is like, man, I just sent them the answer, right? An answer to their question, but I wasn't giving them the answer to how you become North America's most preferred realtor, right? I wasn't giving them the whole answer to getting hundreds of referrals a year. I just gave them an answer, and it was almost like just like, here you go, right? So I knew I needed to write a book to like, okay, here's the answer, not an answer, but in 7L, there are over 100 referral generating strategies, right? So what's interesting is like a lot of people who say they need to write a book, I didn't write a book, right? I didn't have the time. I didn't have the expertise. I didn't know what to do. Well, on December 18th, 2007, everything changed. On December 18th, 2007, I was in a hospital. I was in a hospital because the Friday before I had knee surgery. Well, I had knee surgery and they sent me home over the weekend to rest. And obviously I'm not very good at resting because on Monday, I noticed that when I got up and was walking around that I was out of breath, and about midway through the day on Monday, December 17th, 2007, I had a really sharp pain in my left side. Like, back in the day, I remember running the track in PE, and eventually you would get this pain in your side, right? And so I had that pain in the side, even though I hadn't run anywhere. And it was like just an annoyance. And then by about 6 o'clock that night, it was a sharp pain. And I remember asking my wife, so I asked her, well, Cherie, how much does it cost to go to the emergency room? Right? Think about that question, right? How much does it cost to go to the emergency room? And she was like, oh, like $75. I mean, it's not going to be very much, and I literally had a number in my head. Like if it was more than $350, we weren't going to go. Right. But she was smart. She knew, anybody that asked that question, you just want to shoot a low number. Right. But it's like, how much does it cost to go to the ER? Right. And she said $75. And I go, I think I need to go to the emergency room because I have this sharp pain. Right. And she's like, oh my God, what? So she was like, and I was like, it's okay. And then I took a shower, Chris. I was like, what the, like, I think I need to go to the emergency room. Then I took a shower because you just never know who you're going to run into at the emergency room. Right. So I took a shower, and then we went to the emergency room, and I shared my symptoms. And Chris, you would have thought, like I had 5 nurses on me in half a second, and they were all helpful and putting tubes in me. They put me in a wheelchair. Wow. They were wheeling me down, putting something in my arm, and the whole 9 yards. And I was just thinking at the time, it's like healthcare crisis. We don't have a healthcare crisis. This service is over for $75. I had 5 nurses. It was like all I could think about was like, oh my God, this is like, what are people complaining? Why didn't I go to the ER earlier? Right. So they did a bunch of tests and checks on me and so on and so forth, and they couldn't find why I was having the sharp pain and having trouble breathing. Well, they couldn't find it. So at like 11 p.m., almost midnight, they were like, well, we're going to keep you overnight just for observation, and we don't know what it is. So we're going to keep trying to figure it out, and the test will be in, right? And so they sent Cherie home. Well, the next morning at 7 a.m., I was startled awake by a oozy substance on the inside of my right leg area, right? That's teasing, right? So it's like, so what was that oozing substance, right? And I looked down. Now remember, I was startled awake. I have to throw that out there for this story, right? So I looked down, and there is like a 20-something female nurse working with an oozy substance in the right side of my leg in the groin area, right? So now, please remember, I was startled awake, Chris. Okay, I want to make sure that's yes. So I looked down, and there was an angel. Right. I must have died already, but no, so it was real, and it was real. So I immediately started thinking about baseball, Chris, because I had been startled awake. So yes, I started thinking about baseball, right? So low outside pitch, you want to drive that to right center. I started thinking about baseball. So I started thinking about baseball, and I was, she was working on, and then I started not feeling very good. And by not feeling very good, I felt like there was a giant's hand pushing down on my chest. And I noticed that my fingertips were feeling a little bit cold, and my feet I was losing a little bit of feeling in my feet. And I was like, I go, ma'am, I don't feel well. I don't feel too good. Right. And she was like, she didn't even look up. Right. She was just like, oh, don't worry about it. I'm going to be done here in 30 seconds and everything will be fine. And then, I don't know if it was 30 seconds later or a minute later, but I noticed that I really wasn't feeling well. Like I felt really heavy, and I felt my hands and my arms were very cold, and my legs were very very cold, like very no feeling cold. It was just a weird feeling. And I looked down again, and she was still doing the sonogram, right, on my pelvic area. That's what the oozy substance was. And she had the sonogram thing, and she was moving it around, and I go, ma'am, I don't feel well, in a very slow, grovelly voice, just like that. And she stopped, right, the way I said it. And I don't know how it sounded to her, but that's how it sounded to me. And I was just like, is that my voice? It was very weird. And she stopped, and she looked up at me, and I must have not looked very good. And then she looked at the heart rate monitor, and her eyes got wide, and I couldn't quite see the heart monitor because it was back behind me. But what I remember from the next little bit is I remember just hearing the heart rate monitor hit flatline. So I heard my heart hit flatline, and so, and it was just the weirdest feeling ever. And I don't know if I felt or saw her leave, right? Which, think about that, right? You're dying. And the person who could help you has just left the room, right? So I remember this feeling of despair, right? Of just like all hope is gone, which is very emotional. I'm getting a little bit emotional, kind of reliving it right now. And so she left, right? And then I heard the heart flatline. And then I don't remember anything, right? People ask me if I saw a light, and it's like, no, I didn't. But I'll describe that in a second. But it's like, so then I came to, and when I came to, there was a large German lady basically hovering over me. And of course, you're like, this is heaven, right? It's like, no, obviously it wasn't heaven yet. But the head nurse, and obviously that's where this 24, 25-year-old had gone, is to get the head nurse. And the head nurse was on top of me, and looking in my eye and just saying, stay with us here, right? Stay with us here. And then like, I guess my heart caught up, right? So I don't know what happened, right?
Wow.
Because I was under for 37 seconds, and so I came to, and I was bewildered. Right. I was just discombobulated and not knowing kind of like where I was, and the head nurse was like, well, you gave us quite a scare there, and I'm like, and she's like, but you're here now, and we're good. And this is the heart surgeon, and they're going to take you down to surgery to put in a temporary pacemaker, so that whatever just happened doesn't happen again. Wow. And I was just like that. And honestly, I had a piece of paper in front of me. And I came to, probably within 30 seconds, I had a piece of paper in front of me. I had no idea what it said. Right. But basically, it was permission to do surgery on me, right? And so they were wheeling me down to surgery.
Wow.
And when I came to, I just remember looking up at the board, and it said December 18th, 2007. The nurses board. Right, where they write the prescription and what. Yep. And I just remember thinking to myself, well, I can't die on December 18th, 2007. That date has no significance. There's no specialness to that date. Right. So that's a weird thought, I know, but it's just like, it's a weird thought. And then I started, I mean, just imagine, right? Just imagine what I was thinking. I was thinking about, I was thinking that I didn't have any children, right? I had no children. I was always ambivalent to children. It's like, if I have children, great. If not, but in that moment, I wanted children more than I ever had. A legacy, right? You start thinking about your legacy.
Yeah, legacy, yeah. Absolutely.
And I also thought that my wife, Cherie, would have been really mad at me if I would have died. That's the first thing. It's like, she would have been mad. Like, what the heck were you doing? At first, I think she'd be sad eventually. But in the beginning, I think she would have been mad at me. Like, why didn't you go to ER sooner? Right. I mean, I think she would have. Right. And I told the doctor that when you called, I said, don't tell her what happened. Get her here. Right. Before you tell her, because she's not going to be able to drive very well if you tell her. So, and then I just thought to myself, is that I just about died with all of this wisdom about this repeat and referral system in my head. Like, you know, it almost didn't happen. And so I went down to surgery. They put in a temporary pacemaker. I went into ICU, and that night in intensive care at Olathe Medical Center in Olathe, Kansas, of all freaking places, I outlined the 7 levels of communication. I outlined 7L, and literally that outline grew by 21 pieces while I was in intensive care. And then over the next 24 months, I wrote 7L, right? And I wrote it, right? And I had this big why, and I had this big inspiration to write it because I had almost died. And what people don't know is for 6 months after this incident, I had a lot of trouble sleeping because a blood clot, and what it was is I had 7 blood clots. I had 3 in each lung, and I had the one that went through my heart and stopped my heart for a while. But luckily, the nurse was there. It happened in a hospital, and she saved my life. And it's one of those where a blood clot is really small, right? So if you got shot at or something like that, you could border up your house. You could put bars. You could buy an alarm system, right? You could prevent that. But a blood clot was from inside, and it's microscopic, so you can't see it coming. Yeah. Right? It's super, super small. And so I didn't want to go to sleep because I thought to myself, what if this happens when I go to sleep? I didn't want to go to sleep because if I felt like that, then I wanted to call 911. I wanted to make sure I was saved, right? Now I was on blood thinners, of course, you know, Coumadin and so on and so forth. But it was one of those where I did not sleep for 6 months. They eventually had to give me some medicine and knock me out to get me to sleep. Wow. But when you don't sleep, you have a lot of awake hours. And so I wrote a lot in that 6 months right after it happened. And then I edited for about 18 months. And wow, that's it, right? I mean, that's the inspiration. And you know, do I wish it had happened? Probably not. But am I glad it happened and I lived? The answer is yes, because we probably would not have 7L and the 7L system and the people that it's helped without it, you know?
Do you feel like I think there's a lot of stories of where people will have where life gets called into question. It's like, okay. And in that moment, there's a direction, there's a shift, they contemplate legacy and things change. You know, I've never had that. And I wonder, do people need that? Is there a way to access the inspiration without having to have a near-death experience? Like,
I think the strategy, right? I think, you know, in fact, in the introduction of 7L, I say, don't wait for a life-changing event to change your life. Right. And I think that occasionally during life, you have these massive moments that do change your life, like getting married, right? Having a baby, right? Those are massive life changing, but I truly believe that the way we change our life is very small each and every day. Right. I say on stage, and it's been a quote that's been attributed to me for a while is, you know, success is not a 180-degree turn, right? Success is a 1 degree tweak. I believe that life is a 1 degree tweak. How did I get a little bit better today than I was yesterday, right? And it's like, okay, these are the 2 or 3 ways that we got better, or we did more, or we helped more people, or whatever it may be. And we get a little bit better, right? The example is the podcast, right? This is episode number freaking 2, right? When people see number 100, it's going to look far different than number 2. But if they look at number 99, it's not going to look much different than number 100. And that's life, right? That is, life is a 1 degree tweak. Is, hey, let's get better a little bit each day. And that's all you can do, right? Eat a little bit better each day to lose weight. Do a little bit better on what you're doing during the day at work to get a little bit better at work. And, same thing with personal relationships, right? Is do one little thing a little bit better than you did before.
I think, people, as they go through their lives, they're looking for inspiration. I think a lot of times it's why people listen to podcasts, actually. I'm a podcast listener, and I'm always listening for not just insights, but like, what's my leg up? What's my 1 degree tweak I can add?
That's right.
I'm curious from your perspective, like what's the one thing that you want readers to get from 7L? I mean, here's this is your life's work. This is like something that had to be done. And in that, there's something you want people to take from that.
Yeah, that you can have a really, really, really successful business based on love, generosity, and appreciation, right? It's you do not have to be a cutthroat Jack who is ABC, always be closing, always be looking to be on the take, smarmy, pushy, crushing it, killing it, concrete jungle, watching. I mean, what's so funny is that, what are salespeople and business people told to watch for inspiration, Chris? They're told to watch Boiler Room, right? Have you ever been hey, watch Boiler Room, right? Glenn Ross, right? You got to watch Glenn, right? And then The Wolf on Wall Street, right? So they tell you got to watch, if you're going to be successful in sales, you got to watch those. If you want to have a lot of business in sales, you got to watch Boiler Room, Glenn Ross, and or Wolf on Wall Street. Well, Chris, what's interesting about all 3 of those movies is at the end of them, they all either end up in prison or dead. That's our mentor. Those are our role models for sales and business. No freaking way. You do not have to do it that way. You don't have to be that way. You don't have to lie, cheat, steal, go to prison, or die to do business. You know what? You can do it with love, generosity, and appreciation. And it's not only a whole lot more fun to implement, it's more productive. It's more productive in the long run. Right?
I think when you look at people's values, like love, generosity, and appreciation, most people feel aligned with those values. And what I love about what you have, what you're creating in the podcast, and what you've done with 7L is there's this yin and yang to the heart of and the values of love, generosity, and appreciation mixed with the strategy. Like you've got both. And a lot of times love lives out here as very soft.
Fuzzy.
It's a soft skill. It's okay, well, how do I tactically do love? But when you actually bring strategy and business strategy into those values, I think it's why it's probably been received so well and so successful is because it's a strategy that aligns with people's hearts.
Yeah. How to show you love your clients, friends, family, and still be a strong man. Right. Yeah. How do you show your and what I'm going to tell people is and what's really interesting is sometimes the values of love, generosity, and appreciation are affiliated with weakness. Right.
Right. Yeah.
And I have the thought that it's the opposite of that. To be loving, you have to be strong. Like love is strong. It's harder to be loving than it is to be hating. Yeah. It's easy to be hating, right? It's easy to be complaining. What's really hard is to love and love everybody, right? It's really hard to do that. And it takes peace within yourself. But I want you to know that when you've adopted this mindset, you are at peace. When you be love, be love, do generosity, have prosperity. I believe that's the ultimate be, do, have, right? Be, love, do generosity, have prosperity. And so it's one of those is when you are in love, right? You love yourself and you love what you do and you love like the life, right?
Yeah.
Then what happens is you have a strength. The naysayers have no power over you, right? Yep. You take feedback and you take criticism in a constructive way versus a destructive way, right? And I've seen that many people take those things and it distracts them from doing what their life's purpose really should be, right? And it's like, no, it's constructive, right? When people act a certain way, they're doing it for their own reasons, not for your reasons, right? When somebody attacks you, they're not attacking you for you 90% of the time. They're attacking you because of them, because of their fear or because of their fright or because of their lack of knowledge, right? And so when you, I mean, I think that like in love, one of the first strategies is figure out, what do you love? Like when it comes to sales or marketing or people or business, what do you love? What do you love? Like for a realtor, my first question would be, what do you love about real estate? What do you love about it? Right. And what we need to do is we need to focus more of our time, energy, effort, money in what we love. Right. It needs to be around what we love. And so it's like, what do you love to do? And what if you could figure out what you love to do and be with the people you love?
Yeah.
And that's it. That's the secret sauce to 7L is that you get to do what you love with the people that you love,
I think the hard part for that, though, like you said, is so much of how we're taught, or even what we think we've been taught in terms of how to be successful, is to go grind, to get it done, to like it's a steamroller thing that we think. So for somebody to hear what you just said, which is find what you love and work with the people you love, that is actually a recipe for success in business. Can occur like, I didn't quite hear that. I should hear that again, because what I thought I had to do was go get out of my comfort zone and do things I'm not good at and hate my life on the path to success. Right.
Yeah. So the fact of the matter is you are going to do things that you do not love, right? You are going to have to do paperwork until you have somebody to do paperwork. Right. There are pieces that but don't hate everything. Right. It's like I hated cold calling and I ended up working with this person because they were weaker than I was. Right. I mean, that's the only reason cold call works is because the person you're calling is weaker than you are. That's the only time it works. And that's the problem with that business model is it's based on preying on the weak versus the 7L system, which is about partnering with the strong, which we can talk about later. But it's like, okay, so you cold call or you door knock and you find somebody weaker than you and they say yes because they're meek. Well, what happens is they say yes and then they kick in. Most of those people are passive aggressive, right? They won't be aggressive in your face. They'll just go talk badly about you to everybody else. Well, what happens is they're passive aggressive. They're looking for a way out the whole time. They feel like a caged animal. They complain. They badmouth. They won't return your calls. They're awful to work with. And then at the end of the transaction, you're exhausted and frustrated. They're exhausted and frustrated. But the problem is, if the only way you've been taught is that way, you got to go do more of it. You hate every piece of life. You hate every piece of your job. You stop going, you stop doing, and soon you're out of business, right? And then the thing is the opposite of that is loving on people. And what happens when you're referred is the person already loves you a little bit, and all you have to do is ramp their love up a little bit by being competent, right? And communicating. So that's it, man. I think that's and I want to give a gift. Can I give a gift? Yeah. Are we at that point? Yeah. So what I want to do is I want to give everybody my communication plan. So we used to call this the $1 million communication plan, but literally this is about how to communicate with your entire database, the people who know you. And I mean, not just in your city, but in the world, everybody you know in the world is going to fit on this spectrum, and you can communicate with the people closest to you and the best referral sources. You're, of course, going to communicate with them more. And the people who are maybe out of state and maybe not as influential, you're going to speak with them less. But we're going to give that what we call the $1 million communication plan to everybody who's listened to this podcast, and they can get it at referralspodcast.com. You can download the entire communication plan, and then my hope is that you'll go and implement it immediately in your business.
I love it. And as we mentioned in episode 1, like share it with people. I mean, who in your life can benefit from $1 million communication plan? That's incredible. So share that.
That's right.
That's awesome. What a great gift. That's amazing. Again, that's referralspodcast.com. You guys can get the $1 million communication plan. Michael, any last minute words of wisdom as it relates to inspiration?
Yeah. Well, I hope this has been inspirational. I hope it's breathed life into the listener. And I really feel like this is where I need to learn from our audience, right? Is do me a favor, right? The last one I talked about sharing it. If you felt like today was a benefit to you, maybe inspirational to you, send it to the colleagues in your office, right? Send it to the other salespeople. Send it to, and we're going to be building off this platform of love, generosity, and appreciation over the course of the next, weeks, months, years, and so on and so forth. And then the second thing is, I want your feedback. I want you to tell me. I want when you're listening to this, I want you to ask me a question, right? And I want you to tell me like what is a future? What would it be really nice if we gave you as a gift, or we helped you with on air, or what is it in the repeat and referral business, and how can we help you, win the referral game? The Referrals Podcast is about winning the referral game. And I want to know from you, like, what part of the game can we help you with, right?
What's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah. So I would say that the best way to do it is send something to podcast@referco.com.
Perfect.
Right. So podcast@referco, referco.com. And that will come to our team that helps on the podcast. And we will look at those. And my promise is that we will answer those in future issues. And we may even send you an answer before you have to wait for it on the podcast.
Nice.
So
podcast. Nice perk. Yeah. I like it.
PODCAST podcast, not S. There's no S at the end, just single podcast @referco.com, referco.com. And we'll help you out. I want to know from the audience. This is awesome stuff.
I love it. I'm inspired. Thank you. That was great. Amazing story. I love origin stories. I think they're so powerful. And I, for those of you listening, like the question comes back to like, what is your origin story of where you're going to go? Like what has breathed life and inspiration into you? And I think the call to action to me is pretty clear. Like it's time to go do that. You guys can go to referralpodcast.com, Referrals Podcast. That's with an S, referralspodcast.com, and get the $1 million communication plan. Michael, thank you for episode 2. Look forward to talking to episode 3. And until then, see ya.